door shut, attempting to snap me back to reality. I turned my head and saw my puppy sitting in front of my house. It was the last time I would ever see those black shiny eyes. Everything had been packed into boxes. The house echoed with solitude. There was an emptiness that could not be filled with furniture or ornaments. My great-grandmother had passed away 2 days before. However, my family and I dragged along, with an ache in our hearts. There was no time to mourn. We had to keep going. I looked down at my lap and wept. Tears incessantly ran down my cheeks. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. Dad carefully woke me up. It was time to catch our plane that would land 7 hours later at the John F. Kennedy Airport. I walked out the gate numb. My body was functioning in automatic mode. Too much had happened for my mind to comprehend. I was going to live in this strange land from now on. 2 weeks later, it was my first day of 5th grade. Hesitantly, I stepped into the classroom. Immediately, everyone turned around. They stared at me with judgmental eyes. It was the first time I had ever felt like a foreigner. There was a pit in my stomach, a sense that I did not belong there. But there was no way out. If I rode in a car for miles, I would only be deeper in a maze with no escape. Birds flew around the school building. I envied their freedom, their ability to flee and find a place of comfort. Months passed of loneliness, of not being able to communicate with anyone. I had never spoken English before. To complicate my circumstance, I was rather an odd child. My bowl haircut and blonde highlights did not exactly help blend in. Nevertheless, as I progressed from elementary school to high school, I learned to adapt. I eventually discovered an iPod was a music player and not a cooking pot. The American culture seeped into me. It became a part of me. The torturous days where I cried almost every night were left behind, and a bright path of new friendships was ahead of me. The land that had been so unknown to me in the beginning had become my home. I knew that there was no place I felt so comfortable in. There was no doubt I wanted to travel around the world and be exposed to the different cultures, but I knew that after each vacation I wanted to come back. My family was here, the anchor that holds me in place, the people I run to for encouragement. My unwavering friends who have remained with me were here. This place was filled with possibilities. I could grow up to be whomever I desired. With the necessary effort and discipline, I could achieve any goal I set. And it was not a fairy tale that parents tell their children. It was true. I had experienced it myself. However, all of that was hanging by a thread that could snap at any moment. In February of 2010, a phone call would deliver the terrifying news. I had to go back to Colombia for an infinite amount of time. And the worst part, the part that made me quiver to the bone, it was uncertain if I would ever be allowed back into the United States. It was as if someone had pulled the rug from under my feet. My whole world began to collapse around me. The floor evaporated and I went into a freefall. There are no words to describe the desperate feeling of being ripped away from the dearest things in your life. But there were no options for me. If I stayed, I could not attend school, work, drive, or do anything that composed a normal life. The only thing left to do was to close my eyes and die them. Exactly a year later, the numbness returned. That feeling of being an alien came back. I had not been in Colombia for over 8 years. I was no longer part of that country. That culture was completely different from mine. The people were inaccessible, and they considered me out of place. The way they communicated with me was incredibly formal, following appropriate decorum, instead of the simplicity Americans have when it comes to interacting with others. Within hours of stepping off the plane, I realized I had lost my fluency in Spanish. I did not want to be there. I wanted to go directly to the interview at the embassy and put an end to the distress. The days were consumed slowly by the heat of the sun. The day that would change my life crawled into existence. Barely having slept for an hour or so the night before, I journeyed the cold, dark path to what felt like a trial. I was a criminal that awaited their verdict. Would I be able to come back to the United States? Or would I be stranded there forever with no hope of ever seeing my family again? My vision was blurred. My knees nearly collapsed. I felt nauseous, physically sick. If you looked into my eyes, you would not find the person I am. My soul was elsewhere, pleading for mercy. The U.S. official called my name. By some miracle, I managed to march to the booth. He quickly looked through a stack of papers that referred to me as a number. I was not a human being. I was a case that had to be analyzed. Every second was agonizing. Then, I heard the most beautiful words in the world. You can go back. It was like I had returned from the dead. Every cell in my body rejoiced with gratitude. I knew that from that moment on, I would never look at America the same. I knew that every single step I took in this astonishing country would be a sign of triumph. This wonderful place is my home. Everything about it is perfect, and I'm honored to live here.